Follow your instincts. Go with your gut. Listen to yourself. I don't remember the first time I heard this advice, but boy, do I always remember the times I didn't take it. Sometimes it's small things. My mom used to call it her first mind. My first mind told me not to turn right. Then there are those other times when the stakes are higher.
I spent a good 4 years going to counseling, doing yoga, meditating, because I thought I was going crazy.
Kristi Brown just couldn't shake these feelings. She just wasn't happy. And her body, it was always stiff and achy.
I have a lot of body pain that I deal with my hips and my knees, and I do a lot of things to work that out.
Clarity for Kristi came during a trip to Houston at a friend's wedding. The celebration was off the Gulf Coast, and Kristi just couldn't look away from the water. She was mesmerized.
And something was just calling me to the water. I won't even say something. I will say Yemeya. The spirit of Yemeya was just calling me to the water.
Yemeya. The Yoruba religion describes her as the ocean goddess, known for manifesting life from her deep, nourishing waters.
I take off all my clothes and I just get in the water, and everything stopped. I couldn't see people. I couldn't see anything. And all I was seeing was the moon, and it was the water. And it was just like, okay, you are not crazy. And you have the answer. You know what to do.
You know what to do, but are you listening? And what does it take to trust yourself, your first mind? And how can truly listening to ourselves lead us to our purpose? That's the topic we're taking on in this episode of Truth Be Told. On that plane ride home to Seattle, Kristi reflected on the epiphany that came over her in the water. She decided to divorce her husband. They'd been married for 13 years.
At that time in that marriage, I could not be my full self. I was intimidated to be my full self. He really couldn't handle me being my full self. And it was just an explosion because it was just like a fight.
Kristi's husband wasn't a bad person. He was a good guy. And on paper, her life was pretty good too. She was raising 4 beautiful children, running a successful catering business, and her black-eyed peed hummus. Grocery stores up and down the West Coast were clamoring for it. But this union Kristi was in, it felt like she was making herself small.
He wanted to be able to be that person, but who I am, and now I see that now, is so much bigger. And it has so much far-reaching. It's like I kept trying to fit it inside this box and really literally have my body has acclimated to that, me trying to fit down here.
Divorcing meant shedding the person she was and turning her attention to who she was becoming. It felt scary and at the same time liberating.
When I left, I remember I saw someone and they said later, they're like, I remember right after you left him, you looked like a runaway slave. Now, first of all, I love black people, but the stuff we say to each other, good Lord Jesus, who says that? Who says that, right? And it broke my heart, right?
It broke your heart because why? Say why.
Because it was true. Because it was true and somebody could see it, and I needed every confirmation in the world because I took that seriously. We're going to be married forever. My parents were married for 44 years until my dad died. And so it's like, forever we're going to be married, you know? And so for me to leave and for me to be the one to leave, it was like, okay, this is serious business.
Were you starting over when you left?
Oh, yeah. I took nothing. And I called one of my catering clients who was a lawyer, and she called her friends, and she found us a place to live. And I traded cooking for their family to stay in their beautiful mansion. It was great. I moved in. They never were there. I never had to cook. Hardly ever. The maid hated me. It was the most hilarious thing. And my car broke down. And then like 2 weeks later, I got accepted in 5 farmers markets.
For Brown Girl Cooks, for your hummus.
Yeah.
Food was your liberation.
Yeah, for sure.
Food was your ticket to freedom.
Always. Like from the time that I started on food stamps in my kitchen doing catering. Like I had a porch and we used to cool the food down outside. I can say this now. I'd have not licensed number 1, but me and my sous chef would sit there and I would go to sleep and she would watch the food to make sure the squirrels didn't get it. Because it was cold enough outside to like cool the food.
A few years ago, memories of childhood began popping up in Kristi's mind. She'd be transported to these moments, like the one of herself around 5 or 6 in her parents' kitchen, watching her father at the stove. She'd stand behind him and then run to the dining room table to create menus for her family. She wanted dinner time to be an experience.
Well, like you had to start with the menu, right? The menus, everybody had to have their little individual. I started my little construction paper, my little crayons. I always draw flowers. So that's definitely going to happen. Like flowers and stuff. You got your first course and your second course and stuff like that, you know? And I think that really like my love of cooking kind of came out of being greedy and impatient. Because it's like my dad would be cooking and he'd be just taking so long. And I'm like, dog, like, come on, can I help? Maybe I can make it go faster.
You were running the restaurant even back then, like, Dad, chop, we got it.
Come on, we're hungry. Because he would be making sauce for like hours and I'd be like, come on, man.
These flashes of her former self, they were reminding Kristi of her calling, her ability to bring people together, to build community. Her purpose in this moment became even more clear after her son Damon returned from Howard University in D.C. He'd share with her that indescribable feeling of living on the East Coast, being surrounded by Blackness. He wanted that feeling in Seattle.
I always complain. All the dope people who were from Seattle would leave. They would take their talents to Atlanta, take their talents to New York, LA, whatever, and then we'd be left with what? You know what I'm saying? Just a continual, reinvention process or whatever. But I growing, that was always my complaint. So it was like, yo, let's really like bring it back and really make it dope here.
So in 2020, Damon and Kristi pivoted from catering and opened a space in the heart of Seattle. They named it Communion. It's a restaurant so highly regarded that within the first year, Condé Nast Traveler named it one of the top 12 new restaurants in the world. And this past spring, Kristi hit another milestone. She was a semifinalist for a James Beard Award, one of the most prestigious honors in the culinary world. The accolades almost represent putting the pieces of herself back together again. All the parts she had spent years tucking away to make herself small.
I'm reclaiming parts of myself from different spaces, even I think different lifetimes. Like there's a lot of that's coming to me where it's like, okay, things are coming back. One of my besties, we had this thing that we say to each other. And it's like, no matter what's going on, the situation could be the greatest thing in life or the worst thing ever. And we look at each other and we say, how good can it get? And I feel like I gave myself permission to go and run with how good it could get. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to have down times. That's not what it's about. It's about like your the size of your problems are the indication of how big your life is. If I'm sitting around here looking at somebody else and those are my problems, it's somebody else, those are the smallest problems I can have. When I can look at myself and say, okay, Kristi, this is where you're at and that's not acceptable. And you got to get over this hump. And I'm up here battling myself. That's great. That's great, because that means I'm getting myself out the way so that I can achieve the highest maximum pleasure, joy, richness, excitement, anything that could propel me into just these levels of ecstasy. That's where I'm at. And I can't play that game if I'm dilly-dallying in a small bullshit. I can't do it. And I don't want to do it. So I just feel like that's the thing. I'm like, how good can it get? Oh, that's great. That sounds great. And I live in expectancy of miracles. And I've seen them over and over again. And I'm like a little kid when it comes to that kind of thing. Every time the miracles happen, I'm like, wow. And I'm not in disbelief, wow. I'm like, yeah, look at that. Look how good that was. Remember that last time? Look at this one. And I have another girlfriend, and we're tag teaming. We're tag teaming on some greatness thing. And it's great because I've given myself permission to play that game.
I mean, to that point about how good can it get, I'm still stuck on that. I mean, this is not a limiting thought at all, so I don't want you to take it this way. But when you had your catering business, that Brown Girl Cooks, and you had your hummus, I thought that was pretty amazing. That opens it up to how good can it get?
Right. You've heard the stories. What is the difference between those stories of those people that made it out of dire situations, camp, imprisonments, all kind of death chambers, slave trades, all kind of shit, and they made it? What is the difference between them and you? It's got to be your belief. It's got to be. Because it wasn't anything particular about, I don't just believe that certain people are endowed with this, you're special and you're not. I don't believe that's kind of the God that we have. I just think, or maybe it's just the luck of the draw. I don't know, but I just don't believe it. So I just feel like that's our job, is to figure out what we can believe in so that we can get to that level. And then it's just that constant push. It's that constant push.
So many people are in pain, though. It's really bad.
It is. It is. And it's interesting to me. I had a friend, the family didn't confirm it, but I kind of felt it in my spirit that she committed suicide. Because I don't know. And I have been down. I have definitely been down. And there's been times where that has hovered over me. And I have friends that deal with that spirit of that kind of depression that keeps you feeling like, I could. Unfortunately, they haven't. But it is bad.
What got you out of that cloud?
I live in expectancy of miracles. I know that the day is going to end and then it's going to start up again. And I know that every day I wake up, it may be some same shit, different day, but it's a different day. It may be, some shit, but it's something. And there's just always been something that has kept me holding on. And I'm grateful because I know that that's not something to take for granted. And I use that gratefulness to, sometimes I'm limping through it. Sometimes I'm sprinting. Sometimes I'm gliding. Sometimes I'm sleeping through it. But I know that something's going to change. And then I just keep holding on to that. And I don't spend a lot of time. I keep my purview very small. because if I get all up here and I'm all nosing around with stuff, then I get consumed with a whole bunch of other stuff, and I have to protect my spirit in a way that I just keep it real. I keep it tight. And with this new elevation that I'm on right now, it's even tighter because I cut things off that I know that will take me into a different direction that I need to go, because I'm on purpose. I got things to do. And if I'm pushing toward this higher height and I get distracted from all these other things, and that slows me down, and I ain't got time for that.
Man, Kristi, I love talking to you so much too. It just is so healing. If I were still in Seattle, I would just be like around, just hanging out, annoying you all the time. I know. I really appreciate you being so vulnerable for the benefit of us, you know?
I'm going to tell you, it's all you. That's you, okay? Because I was so moved after our second conversation in person, because I felt safe enough to have this conversation. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on the Webby.
Thank you.
On everything. I'm so happy for you. Hard fought. I know it was. I when you made the announcement, and I thought about like what it took for you to get here, and not knowing anything about your personal story, and just thinking, my God. But what happens when you stand up for yourself? That's the liberation right there. That's it. And so I'm super grateful that you allowed space for this conversation, because it really has helped a ton around me feeling even more confident to share my story in new ways, because it's time. It's time for so many reasons. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, my gosh. How good can it get? How good can it get? Man, I just love that so much. It is now going to be my new mantra. And also, you can never go wrong listening to your first mind. You know, me and Truth Be Told producer Aisha Brown actually visited Communion to talk to Kristi. We arrived during brunch, so you know we had to eat.
I'm going to do the Bloody Mary shrimp and grits. Bloody Mary, my favorite cocktail.
Chef Kristi has created more than 200 recipes and dishes, and she's always creating more. She calls her profile Seattle Soul, traditional Black American and African dishes with an infusion of East Asian flavors, a real nod to the rich culture here in Seattle. Like hood sushi, which is made up of catfish and watermelon hot sauce. I had neckbone stew and Creole catfish and grits. Oh my God. Chef Kristi has actually created a recipe just for you to make at home. Roasted corn and clam chowder. And you can watch her showing you how to make it on our Instagram at DearTBT, and on Twitter at Dear Truth Be Told, and also our website, deartbt.com. Whew. All right, this is our last episode of the season. We're taking a break for the summer, and I really hope that you will too. I almost feel like our wonderful wise ones this season have been gearing us up for a summer of renewing ourselves for the next leg of this journey.
One of the hardest things for me to do that I started doing, sis, is when my eyes wake up, I tell myself now I am not going to get out of bed in urgency. I want to get out of bed in resource. So when my eyes first open up and that urgency, like get up, let's go, I purposely now just lay there. I'm constantly practicing on unhooking my worth to the urgency.
I absolutely am a huge proponent with starting where you live. Go home. Yeah. Sit on a porch. Sit on a porch and be quiet. Sit on a porch and tell your story. You know,
right now there's the screen thing. I went to an event the other day, and it was like I was there for 40 minutes and I had a beautiful time at it, and I was like, God, it's so beautiful. Why am I vibing so hard at this thing? And I was like, oh, because this is the longest period I've gone without looking at a screen all day. all day. I'm just looking out the window, listening to the music, looking at the trees. I'm like, so I have to remind myself that, like, for me, nourishment begins with time. How much time do I give to myself, to my spirit, to my process? That's what it is. It's time.
I don't want to lose my power at this moment, because I feel like this is the moment where I need the most power. I want to have the most strength I can have. I want to build up every bit of power that I can muster up. And I want all of us to feel everything. I want us to cry. I want us to mourn. I want us to like walk through this moment and feel it, see it, understand it, and connect with each other. Not silo, not fight, but like see it for what it is, because we need each other.
If I had a wish that I want to share with other people, is just to find a way to get into your body this summer and reconnect and create some space to feel all these feelings that have just been bottled up for so long. I just love the sun, and so I'm personally looking forward to just having some space just to be and just to feel held by the world.
There really is no answer but to do whatever you must to try and love yourself and tell yourself again and again and again that you matter. Maybe that looks like going and arguing at Congress. Maybe that looks like going and writing a poem. Maybe that looks like going and getting some rest and getting away. Maybe that looks like doing an interview. Maybe that looks like reading a book. Whatever you have to do to stay intact with your humanity, that's what we must do.
That was Resma Minikim, Omashade Bernie Scott, Carvel Wallace, Tarana Burke, Ryan Roberson, and Dante Stewart, a few of our dynamic wise ones this season. If you haven't listened to this season about nourishment, the Black body, and what liberation means for us, I would encourage you to take a listen, subscribe, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Reviews help people find the show. Truth Be Told is a production of TMI in association with Fearless Media. A major thank you to my wonderful team who helped produce this season: B.A. Parker, Phyllis Fletcher, Aisha Brown, Enrico Benjamin, and Adama Imeson. Also, a special thank you to Rochelle Roberts and Sam Rafelson. Our theme music is Rest by Otis McDonald and Zora's Moon by Candace Hoyes. And you know the biggest thanks is to you, the listener. We do this for you, so I can't say enough how much I want to hear from you, what you love about our show, what you want to hear more of, what you want to hear less of, as we think about where we want to take this show for the benefit of you. A special thank you as well to Heising Simons and the Ford Foundation for funding Truth Be Told. I'm Tonya Mosley, and have a wonderful summer.